The letter trembled in my hands as I read it for the fourth time, still struggling to process what it meant. My grandmother Mabel, who had passed away 6 months ago, had apparently left me something important. Something that couldn't be mailed or explained over the phone, according to her lawyer. My name is Delilah, though most people call me Lila. At 22, I thought I was done with family drama when I moved away to pursue art school. Guess I was wrong. Are you seriously going back home for this? My roommate Juno asked, watching me throw clothes into a duffel bag. After everything that happened at Christmas? I winced at the memory. My sister Savannah had made sure everyone knew exactly how disappointed they should be in my waste of potential at the dinner table. But this was different. This was about Mabel. The lawyer said it's time-sensitive, I said, zipping up the bag. Besides, Mabel was the only one who ever believed in me. If she left me something... Just be careful, Juno warned. You know how your family gets. The drive home felt longer than usual, my mind racing with possibilities. What could be so important that it required my physical presence? Mabel and I had been close. She'd been the one who bought me my first set of proper art supplies. Who defended my choice to attend art school when everyone else scoffed. As I pulled into the familiar driveway of our family home, my stomach dropped. There was Savannah's cherry red BMW parked out front, along with several other cars I didn't recognize.
Great. Just great.
I barely made it through the front door when my mother's voice rang out from the living room. Delilah? Is that you? Come quick. Your sister has wonderful news. Stepping into the room, I froze. Savannah stood in the center, wearing what could only be a wedding dress, surrounded by our parents and what appeared to be her future in-laws. Her perfectly manicured hand was stretched out, showing off an engagement ring that looked suspiciously familiar. Oh good, you're finally here, Savannah smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Now we can properly announce it. Though I suppose your timing is a bit awkward, showing up in those paint-stained jeans to my engagement party. I clutched the lawyer's letter tighter in my pocket. Something told me this was going to be about much more than just an inheritance. I escaped to my old bedroom as soon as I could, my head spinning from the chaos downstairs. The engagement party was still in full swing, but I needed space to think. That's when I noticed it, my grandmother's jewelry box sitting on my childhood desk, a cream-colored envelope propped against it. The box looked exactly as I remembered, hand-carved maple with tiny roses along the edges. But something was off. The brass latch was scratched, like someone had struggled to open it recently. Looking for something specific? I jumped at Savannah's voice. She stood in the doorway, still wearing that ridiculous wedding dress, but her picture-perfect smile had vanished. Grandmother's lawyer asked me to come, I said, holding up the letter. Something about an inheritance. Oh, that old thing? Savannah waved dismissively. Mother already sorted through everything important. Just some costume jewelry and old papers left. I opened the box anyway. Empty, except for a folded piece of paper at the bottom. Before I could reach for it, Savannah crossed the room in 3 quick strides. By the way, she said, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes cold, I hope you're not planning to make a fuss about the ring. What ring? The one I'm wearing. Grandmother's engagement ring. The one she always said she'd give to her first granddaughter to get married. She twisted it on her finger, and my stomach dropped. That's why it had looked familiar downstairs. She never said that. I protested. She always told me.
What?
That you'd get it? Please. Savannah laughed. You really think she'd want her precious heirloom wasted on someone who'd probably sell it to buy paint supplies? My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Meet me at Mabel's Cafe tomorrow, 9 a.m. Bring the letter. RK. Everything okay, little sister? Savannah's eyes narrowed at my phone. Fine, I said, quickly pocketing it. Just my boyfriend checking in.
Right.
Well, enjoy your treasure hunt. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Lila? Try not to embarrass the family while you're here. Connor's parents are very traditional. As she left, I pulled out the paper from the jewelry box. In grandmother's shaky handwriting, the truth lies with the roses. Trust only writer. Writer. RK. My sister's ex-boyfriend was about to make this homecoming a lot more interesting. Mabel's cafe hadn't changed in the 6 months since my grandmother's death. The same faded roses painted on the window, the same bell chiming as I pushed open the door. What had changed was the man sitting in her usual corner booth, looking nothing like the polished businessman I remembered from family gatherings 2 years ago. Ryder Kane nursed a black coffee, his designer suits replaced by worn jeans and a day's worth of stubble. He slid a leather-bound book across the table as I sat down. "Found this in Mabel's things," he said. "Your mother tried to throw it out, but I saved it. Thought you should see it." I opened the journal, recognizing my grandmother's elegant script. The first entry made my blood run cold. "Savannah came to me today, desperate. The things she's done to keep up appearances." "Keep reading," Ryder urged, his voice tight. Page 43. The bell chimed again. Through the window's painted roses, I caught a glimpse of Connor's Tesla pulling into the parking lot. "Shit," Ryder muttered, sliding lower in his seat. "She's tracking my phone again." "Who's tracking?" I started, but then Savannah burst in, her perfect facade cracking as she spotted us. "Really, Ryder?" she hissed, stalking over. "Meeting my sister now? How pathetically desperate." "Funny," he replied. "I was just showing Lila some interesting reading material about the real reason Connor's family invested in your startup." Savannah's face went white. She grabbed for the journal, but I pulled it away. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," she warned, her voice shaking. "That ring? It's just the beginning. Connor's family has millions, and once we're married." "Once you're married, what?" Connor's voice cut through the cafe like ice. He stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "What exactly happens once we're married, Savannah?" The journal felt heavy in my hands as Savannah's carefully constructed world began to crumble. But it was the last entry that truly changed everything. "My dearest Lila, if you're reading this, then you've finally discovered what your sister has been hiding. The question is, what will you do with the truth?" I looked up at Savannah, seeing real fear in her eyes for the first time in our lives. "That's a good question, grandmother," I said softly. "That's a very good question." The family dinner that night was a minefield of tension. Connor had disappeared after the cafe confrontation, leaving Savannah to spin some story about him being called away on business. But the tremor in her hands as she passed the potatoes told a different tale. "Your father and I have been thinking," my mother announced, cutting into her chicken with surgical precision. "About your grandmother's ring." Across the table, Savannah's lips curved into a familiar smirk. "It's really quite simple," my father added. "The ring belongs with the daughter who's building a proper future, not funding finger painting classes." "They're oil paintings," I corrected automatically, though my voice sounded distant even to myself. "And grandmother left specific instructions." "About that," Savannah interrupted, pulling out a document. "I had her lawyer look into it. Since the ring wasn't explicitly mentioned in the will, it's technically part of the general estate. Which means, my mother finished, that if you want us to continue supporting your artistic pursuits, you'll do the right thing." My phone buzzed. A text from Ryder. "Don't give in. Check your email
Now."
"Excuse me," I mumbled, standing up. "I need some air." In the hallway, I opened my email to find a video attachment. The timestamp showed last week, Savannah entering a pawn shop, grandmother's antique bracelet clutched in her hand. The same bracelet she claimed was stolen months ago, leading to a massive insurance payout. "Everything okay, sweetie?" My mother's voice carried from the dining room. "Your dinner's getting cold." I walked back in, phone in hand, and caught Savannah's eye. For a split second, her mask slipped, revealing raw panic. "Actually," I said, sitting down, "I have some interesting footage to share about another piece of grandmother's jewelry. You know, the bracelet that was stolen?" The color drained from Savannah's face. My father's fork clattered against his plate. "Unless," I continued, surprised by how steady my voice remained, "we want to reconsider this whole ring situation." The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. I'd just declared war on my sister, and there was no going back now. I hadn't expected Juno's couch to become my refuge, But here I was, 3 days after the dinner showdown, surrounded by half-empty takeout containers and my scattered art supplies. My phone kept buzzing with missed calls from my parents, but it was the text from Max that made my hands shake. Check your email now. You need to see this. The video loaded slowly, showing security footage from behind the pawn shop. There was Savannah again, but this time she wasn't alone. Ryder stood close, their body language intimate in a way that made my stomach turn. The timestamp: yesterday. Holy shit, Juno whispered, watching over my shoulder. Isn't her engagement party tomorrow? Before I could respond, my phone lit up with an unknown number. Connor. I know you have proof, he said without preamble. About Savannah and the jewelry. About everything. I gripped the phone tighter. How did you? Ryder told me. He's been documenting things. The stolen jewelry, the company funds, all of it. His voice cracked slightly. I need your help, Lila. Tomorrow at the party. A sharp knock at Juno's door cut through our conversation. Through the peephole, I saw Savannah, her perfect appearance slightly disheveled. I know you're in there, she called out. We need to talk. Alone. I opened the door, keeping the chain on.
About what?
More blackmail? About survival. Her mascara was smudged, her hands fidgeting with her designer purse. You don't understand what's at stake. Connor's family, the merger, everything I've worked for. You mean everything you've stolen for? Please. For the first time in my life, I heard genuine desperation in my sister's voice. Just come to the party tomorrow. We can work something out. I'll tell Mom and Dad the truth about the ring, about everything. Just don't show that video. Behind me, my laptop pinged with another email from Max. More footage, more secrets. Fine, I said, watching her shoulders sag with relief. I'll be there. As she walked away, Juno grabbed my arm. You're not seriously trusting her? I looked down at my phone, at Connor's waiting call, at Max's new evidence. No, I replied. I'm ending this. Tomorrow, everything changes. The question was, at what cost? The engagement party sparkled with fake smiles and champagne flutes, a perfect facade for the bomb I was about to drop. I clutched my phone, Max's video evidence ready to play, when Savannah clinked her glass for attention. Before the toasts begin, she announced, her voice honey-sweet, I want to thank my dear sister for finally doing the right thing. She held up her hand, grandmother's ring catching the light, for supporting my happiness, despite our differences. The room burst into approving murmurs. My parents beamed. Connor, standing near the back, caught my eye with a slight nod. Actually, I started, stepping forward, but Savannah wasn't finished. And to show my gratitude, I'd like to announce something special. She gestured to someone behind me. The Harper Family Foundation is establishing an art scholarship. In memory of our grandmother, of course. And Lila will be its first recipient. The air left my lungs. She'd outmaneuvered me again, turning my revenge into a trap. If I exposed her now, I'd look like an ungrateful, spiteful sister destroying her engagement out of jealousy. Isn't that wonderful? My mother wrapped me in a perfumed embrace. Finally, a proper use for your hobby. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryder. Don't do it. She's got proof about Connor's family's illegal dealings. You'll destroy more than just her. Another buzz. Max. The video's been corrupted. All of them. Someone hacked my cloud storage. The room spun slightly. Savannah raised her glass in my direction, victory glinting in her eyes. To family, she toasted. To family, everyone echoed. I felt my chance at justice slipping away with each clink of crystal. Connor wouldn't meet my eyes anymore. My parents were already discussing the scholarship with potential donors. And somewhere in the crowd, Ryder watched it all unfold. Another pawn in Savannah's perfect game. Well, Savannah whispered as she passed me. Isn't there something you'd like to say to everyone? I looked at my phone, now useless. At the ring on her finger that should have been mine. At the life she'd built on lies that I couldn't prove anymore. Yes, I said, raising my own glass with trembling hands. To my sister's happiness. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. Grandmother's journal burned in my bag, full of truths that would never see light. I'd lost everything: my evidence, my chance at justice, and worst of all, my self-respect. Savannah had won. Again. I found Savannah in Grandmother's rose garden after the party, her perfect facade finally cracking as she twisted the ring on her finger. The garden lights cast strange shadows across her face, making her look older, vulnerable. "You won," I said, my voice hollow. "Congratulations." She didn't turn around. "Did you read all of Grandmother's journal? What does it matter now? You destroyed the evidence." Page 93. Her voice cracked. The part about Dad's company. About what really happened to her savings. I pulled out the journal, its pages worn from countless readings. But before I could open it, Connor emerged from the shadows, phone in hand. "I got it all, Lila," he said quietly. "Every conversation. Every transaction. The whole scheme." Savannah spun around, her composure shattering. "You were recording." "For months," he confirmed. "Since I found out about the embezzlement. About how you and your father used your grandmother's accounts to cover the company's losses." My hands trembled as I found page 93. There it was, Grandmother's desperate entries about discovering the truth, about confronting Dad, about Savannah's role in covering it up. "She was going to expose everything," Savannah whispered. That's why she died alone in her house." I finished, the truth hitting me like a physical blow. "Because you made sure she couldn't reach anyone that night." The garden lights flickered as police cars silently pulled up to the house. I heard my father's shocked voice from inside, my mother's muffled sobs. Savannah lunged for Connor's phone, but I stepped between them. She grabbed my arm, and Grandmother's ring caught the light one last time before slipping off her finger, landing among the roses. "I did it for our family," she pleaded, mascara running down her cheeks. "Everything I did was to protect us." "No," I said, picking up the ring. "You did it for yourself. Just like always." As the officers approached, I finally understood what Grandmother's real legacy was. Not the ring, not the journal, but the courage to stand up for the truth, no matter the cost. "I'm sorry, Savannah," I whispered, stepping back as they led her away. "But family means more than keeping secrets." The ring felt warm in my palm, a reminder that sometimes justice comes at the price of everything you thought you wanted. 6 months after the scandal broke, I stood in the university gallery, surrounded by my thesis exhibition. Each painting told a piece of our story: Grandmother's roses, Savannah's ring, the shattered family portraits. But it was the centerpiece that drew everyone's attention: a woman in a wedding dress, her reflection in shattered mirror fragments showing a different face in each piece. "It's haunting," Connor said, appearing beside me. He looked different now, more genuine without the weight of secrets. "Have you heard from her?" I nodded, touching the envelope in my pocket. Savannah's letter had arrived that morning from the rehabilitation center. Unlike her previous manipulative notes, this one felt real, raw with admissions I never thought I'd hear from her. "She's doing better," I said. "Actually better. Not just pretending this time." My mother arrived later, alone. Dad was still serving his sentence, and the family company was being restructured under Connor's oversight. She moved differently now, the perfectly poised society wife replaced by someone more authentic, if a bit lost. "These are remarkable," she whispered, stopping before a small canvas of Grandmother's jewelry box. "Mabel would have loved them." As the gallery emptied, I noticed something tucked behind my centerpiece, a weathered envelope I hadn't seen before. Inside was a single rose petal and a note in Grandmother's handwriting. "My dearest Lila, if you're reading this, you've finally found your voice. The true inheritance was never in the jewelry or the money. It was in the courage to paint your own truth, even when the canvas seemed too dark. Your sister chose her path, as we all must. But you, my dear, you chose to create beauty from broken things. That's the real legacy I wanted to leave you." I touched Grandmother's ring on my finger, not as an engagement ring now, but as a reminder of promises kept and truths told. Through the gallery window, I could see new roses blooming in the garden outside, their colors vivid against the setting sun. My phone buzzed with a text from Savannah. Your art tells the truth better than I ever could. I'm sorry it took losing everything to see it. I didn't respond immediately. Some paintings need time to dry, some wounds need time to heal, and some stories don't need a perfect ending to be complete. Instead, I picked up my brush. There was still one more canvas to fill.